I am a virus. Chapter 2, Painful Reflections 1, Where did COVID-19 come from? There has been speculation abroad that this strain of coronavirus may have originated from the Wuhan P4 laboratory, and I share this suspicion. Given China's highly unstable and flawed social structure, any unimaginable oversight is possible. Moreover, why has the Chinese government not allowed American virologists to enter the country, even medical experts from the World Health Organization who have been absent from Wuhan, a fact that is difficult to comprehend. In the face of such a devastating disaster, does the Chinese government not wish to find the most scientific solutions as quickly as possible, refusing well-intentioned assistance, while in line with the Chinese Communist Party's CCP tendency to prioritize saving face over lives, raises questions about what they may be trying to hide. However, as an ordinary person without medical expertise and without concrete evidence, I cannot make a definitive statement. For now, I assume that this coronavirus, like the 2003 SARS outbreak, emerged from wild animals. There is a joke in China: the Cantonese eat anything with legs except the table. This highlights Guangdong's reputation for eating wild game, a trait shared with Guangxi. Thus, it seems logical that SARS first emerged in Guangdong. This time, the novel coronavirus allegedly originated at the Huanan seafood market near my home and was supposedly linked to certain wild animals. I immediately had questions. Why did such a virus, supposedly from wild animals, emerge in Wuhan? Eating wild game is at most an average practice here compared to other regions of China. In the 17 years since SARS, the Chinese public has not learned to avoid consuming wild animals, and the government has failed to ban the trade in these species. If people across China have been consuming wild game secretly, why did this outbreak occur specifically in Wuhan? I strongly believe that even if a complete ban is imposed following this crisis, China's deep-rooted food culture makes it unlikely that wild game will vanish from dinner tables. There are 3 reasons for this. First, eliminating the notion of eating to nourish rooted in Chinese tradition is almost impossible. Risking consumption for the perceived health benefits may be incomprehensible to the West, but in China, food itself is a belief system for some. Second, Chinese traditional medicine, with its numerous followers, often incorporates wild animal remedies. People would eat such animals with a clear conscience if it was seen as life-saving. Third, China remains a country governed by people rather than laws. Lax or selective enforcement is the norm. This factor is central to my analysis of the virus's origin. If Wuhan does not have an extraordinary penchant for consuming wild animals and there are countless markets nationwide trading in them, why did the outbreak occur specifically at the Huanan seafood market? I suspect the issue lies in sanitation, in the slaughtering, transport, storage, and sale of these animals. Friends who have lived abroad tell me they invariably experience stomach issues when dining out in China. This happens almost every time they return, with a near 100% occurrence rate. This highlights how poor China's food safety and environmental hygiene standards are. In recent years, many friends have opted to reduce dining out altogether, whereas long-term residents may have simply adapted to local bacteria. In summary, while eating wild animals is a persistent practice over the past 17 years, I believe the root cause of this outbreak lies in sanitation. China has no shortage of stringent regulations, but their implementation remains ineffective. The problem lies in a dysfunctional food safety system, where practitioners and law enforcers lack respect for the rules. High taxes, corrupt law enforcement, and prohibitive operating costs often force people to cut corners just to stay in business. Unlike in China, food safety management overseas relies more on stringent laws and industry self-regulation. My conclusion is that while we all accept wild animals as the virus's source and I support banning this trade, China's deep-rooted eating habits make complete eradication unlikely. For example, Jews prohibited the consumption of unclean foods over 2 millennia ago. Many animals cherished in Chinese cuisine would be considered unclean under Jewish law. Christian and Islamic traditions, influenced by Judaism, adopted similar restrictions. In an era of food scarcity 2,000 years ago, eating whatever was available made sense, but Jews recognized some animals carried disease and prohibited their consumption, demonstrating their wisdom. Chinese people, known for their obsession with food, disregard risks. The SARS outbreak in 2003 did not stop the pursuit of wild game delicacies. Will this outbreak change things? I doubt it. If reason cannot overcome deep-rooted food culture, an omnipresent government should be able to enforce strict bans on wild game consumption. The CCP's ability to maintain stability should make this feasible. Yet, their governance focuses exclusively on retaining power, with public health concerns taking a back seat. Despite China's suffering, whether this crisis will inspire societal or governmental reflection remains questionable. The risk of further virus mutations from wild game remains a distinct possibility. While editing this manuscript, I noted that China had already legislated against the wild animal trade, a positive development. However, I remain skeptical about enforcement. Since Xi Jinping came to power, lavish official banquets have been banned publicly, but private extravagance continues unabated. In China, every policy has a workaround. I can already imagine wild game consumption becoming more clandestine and expensive rather than disappearing entirely, unless one day returning overseas friends stop experiencing digestive issues from eating out. The threat of viruses will persist. Note: this article was written 4 years ago, during Wuhan's lockdown. I must acknowledge that my initial instincts were correct. The outbreak had little to do with wild animals. I was misled by the CCP. Evidence indicates that unexplained pneumonia cases occurred as early as the summer of 2019, not at the Huanan market, but near the P4 laboratory in Wuchang. At the outbreak's onset, the CCP deployed military personnel to the P4 lab. Why did they repeatedly reject WHO and Western virus experts' attempts to investigate Wuhan as a Chinese citizen? I do not want to believe the government was deliberately creating biological weapons, but the possibility of human error leading to a virus leak seems plausible. Why was the CCP developing new coronaviruses at the P4 lab? What was their motivation? Their refusal to cooperate with international investigations into the virus's origins over the past 4 years only substantiates international suspicions. Sadly, if the CCP leverages its state apparatus to suppress the truth, the world may remain in the dark for a long time. 4 years later, the West also appears to have politicized virus tracing, failing to take decisive action to uncover the truth. This is deeply disappointing. While this book languished on my computer for 4 years, I had the opportunity to delete this misled analysis. However, the need for reflection on China's obsession with wild game remains, so I have retained it.